2. Hey guys.
Hey guys.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. We are going to be three caballeros today.
Three caballeros.
That's one of my favorite Disney vintage
I wore the right hat
animations. I love it. Oh wait, maybe we'd have cuatro caballeros because JC's going to come in later in the show. What's happening, guys? Welcome to theonering.net. Welcome back.
Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. We've been doing this over 6 years, over 300 episodes.
It's a heavy dose. You're going to tap that vein.
And there's more
heavy dose.
News, rumors, and stuff to talk about Tolkien than ever before.
Oh my gosh.
And we are joined this week today by a regular of the show. Been on with us many times over many years.
Tonight's guest
That's true, I have.
needs no introduction. I've got to do the David Letterman bit.
right.
My guest tonight needs no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, that Chris Gore. Yay! Kermit waves his arms around. Yay!
Thank you for having me. I have done this show many times.
Yeah.
I got to say, I love this new location. We have to talk about this location, right?
Yeah, I'm more than glad
it's amazing.
to. Yes.
Yeah, we're at the Scum and Villainy Cantina on Hollywood Boulevard. And sir, on the eve of Solo about to come out. I know this isn't Lord of the Rings news. I know that there are people upset with me right now because I'm talking about Star Wars. But this is we couldn't be doing this in a better place on the eve of that film coming out. But there's Tolkien news. There's a lot of Tolkien news.
There is a Tolkien news. And look, it's okay to bring up Star Wars on this show because there are multiple connections between Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. Cliff is always overjoyed to drop this point of trivia.
Always glad to remind everyone that our very first Legolas in the Bakshi film was none other than Anthony Daniels. So we always talk about Star Wars because it's in our DNA to bring Tolkien and Lucas together. I don't know why we do it, but here we are.
But it's definitely influenced. I mean, Star Wars was influenced by Lord of the Rings, absolutely, and by the.
Yes.
I mean, both feature two of the greatest wizards in fantasy history.
Boom. Yes.
Right there. And
right there.
they even share two wizards, or one wizard, I guess, because Christopher Lee was both Saruman.
Oh, right.
And
that's true.
Dooku.
Right.
Not only that, our king under the
yeah.
mountain, Richard Armitage, who played Thorin Oakenshield,
Armitage.
was a security guard for Padme Amidala.
He was one of the Naboo palace guards.
That Venn diagram just gets, or maybe it's a ring diagram. It's a diagram of rings of connecting sources.
And it's so good to have you on the show, sir. Welcome back. Welcome back to the fold, man. Yeah.
Fans reminded me, because I tweeted a few of the connections, and then fans pointed out that I had missed Martin Sokas, Csokas, who can be seen now in Into the Badlands.
Don't you pronounce his name Sokas?
Maybe it's Sokas.
Yeah.
But he was our elf Lord Celeborn.
He was Celeborn opposite Kate Blanchett.
But he played Poggle the Lesser in Attack of the Clones, the separatist alien figure.
That's cool.
So
really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
that's a deep cut, man.
There's so many connections. And look, Dave Gentry in the chat room says, "Love me some Star Wars too." Of course, we can talk about anything. Look, I kind of wanted to talk about some of the pop culture news related to Tolkien before we jump into our new announcement that Chris is here to help us launch, and we'll get Josh on the phone in a few minutes. But the first thing is, last night there was a thing called the Met Gala. It is a New York thing. I'm not from New York. Do you know what it is?
It's Halloween for New York socialites. It's Halloween for rich people. Does that seem pretty much, when you look at the pictures, that's what it feels like. It's Halloween for the rich.
And if we look at the pictures,
is it held at the Metropolitan Opera House?
I think it is.
That's why it's when you call it the Met. All the locals in New York know you're talking about the Metropolitan Opera House.
We can't assume that everyone on the internet knows unless they use Google. So
this is one of the photos I saw this morning of someone named Lily Collins.
Oh, yes.
And she is wearing, what is that headdress? It looks kind of Statue of Liberty.
It does evoke the Statue of Liberty. Yes.
But one of the reasons,
it reminds me of the Columbia film logo, where she's standing with that.
That's right.
That blazing torch, very Art Deco. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring her up because
Because we're
this
about
lady, Lily Collins,
is going to start a love affair with our community of fans in a big way.
How is this happening? You have to tell me. Clue me in.
She is about to co-star with Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult, who plays J.R.R. Tolkien in the upcoming biography film directed by Dome Korakowski, the guy who just last year released The Tom of Finland life story.
Wow.
So the Tolkien life story is now going to be...
So I know the Tom of Finland movie that you're talking about.
I saw it too. It was very sensitive. It was very well made.
Google image. Just look up Google Images Tom of Finland, and
Yeah.
you'll see what we're talking about. Or should people not?
You know what? Not suitable for work. I
know what Tom of Finland is.
It is one thing to look at the artwork of the artist, but it's another thing to consider that this director, Dome Korakowski, is all of a sudden jumping from one particular type of artist who was very successful late in the 20th century to another completely different artist. One by the name of John Ronald Reuel Tolkien.
This is Lily Collins.
That's news.
And Nicholas Hoult as John Tolkien and his girlfriend Edith. Wow. This is Tolkien and future wife, the future Baron and Luthien, in a feature film from Fox Searchlight.
When is this? So, what is any expected release date for this?
I'm assuming this is Oscar bait, so I would see this in the fourth quarter of the year, maybe. No real announcement yet, but they finished principal photography.
Yeah,
and they've been leaking like photo stills from the set, like clockwork.
Now, there have been, as you pointed out with Tom of Finland, right? There have been other movies made about artists.
Yes.
Right. And Shelley is one that's coming out from IFC Films about Mary Shelley and what inspired the writing of Frankenstein.
I'm really looking forward to that, though.
Yeah, the trailer is online. You can check that out. But there are other films. How would you weigh this? I mean, what does the director behind Tom of Finland need to do to succeed? And where have other films about artists failed? By artists, writers, different artists. Like, there was one about A.A. Milne, who
I'm looking forward to that too.
Yes,
yeah.
which is the Winnie the Pooh. So what needs to happen in this? What do you want to see? Is accuracy is important? Is it like, for example, the short film George Lucas in Love? I'll reference it because we're here at Scum and Villainy. George Lucas in Love showed comedically some potential inspiration George Lucas may have had in coming up with
there's a little bit going on in here because we know that one of the characters that plays his best friend is named Sam. And that is not true to life necessarily.
No.
But one of his great school friends in this movie, if you look on IMDb, the character's named is Sam. So I think there will be, I like to compare this movie to, I think it's going to be like that Johnny Depp movie about Finding Neverland. Do you guys remember that? It was a movie in the similar vein about how the author came up with the ideas for Peter Pan.
Wow.
And it was based on real people, but it definitely was not. They took liberties to tell a creative story. That's the vibe I'm getting from this.
I'll answer your question, Chris, and I'm glad you mentioned George Lucas in Love. Okay.
Jokingly, I mentioned
because
it. Jokingly.
after the success of The Theory of Everything, and after Eddie Redmayne got his Oscar, people are going to expect a lot more romance, and I think they're going to be expecting something of a story about this love affair. Now let's pull this picture up again of Lily Collins with the young man from Mad Max Fury Road. I'm avoiding the instinct to call him Beast right now.
He's most famous for X-Men.
We got Nicholas Hoult, and you have this lovely young woman, and there's something about their love story. I don't know if I necessarily would have needed a J.R.R. Tolkien movie to center on all of the romance. I'm fine to hear other interesting chapters of his life. But because of what happened with The Theory of Everything, I've got a funny feeling that audience expectations are going to be slightly skewed towards wanting some more romance. And I think we might get it, actually. I think we just might.
Well,
look at some of these pictures, side by side with J.R.R. Tolkien. I mean, he can pull it off.
He sure could.
He
sure could, especially there. Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah.
He's got the hair.
Yeah.
He's got the hair and the eyebrows.
And the eyes. I mean, black and white, you can see those are light eyes in Tolkien himself. So I think they've done a good job
Are they going to show him older? I mean, this looks like all the story of young Tolkien.
Well, that's definitely schoolboy Tolkien.
But what about when he's older and crotchety and grouchy and teaching for years at Oxford and all of his friends are making fun of him for trying to write stories about absurd little things.
We already got that movie.
Hobbits.
It was called Shadowlands with Anthony Hopkins.
See, he's always bringing up the C.S. Lewis movie where Anthony Hopkins played Lewis. Well, yeah, I'm interested in that, but I don't know.
So, but didn't the events of real history actually have an impact on Tolkien in his life? And tragic events in history, and I, what I know about the life of Tolkien could fit into a shot glass. I only say this because I'm surrounded by shot glasses here at the Scum and Villainy Cantina, located on Hollywood Boulevard. So
and Cahuenga.
Yeah, which I mean, this is such an awesome space. But you are right. Talk about that a bit.
You're right.
Because I find that fascinating.
The debate Cliff and I have been having for many weeks now is that I'm all on board with this Finding Neverland kind of creative approach to retelling Tolkien's life. Yeah. Cliff saw Dom Korok, the director's last movie,
Korakowski.
Tom of Finland.
Tom of Finland.
Yes.
And your immediate response was like, I don't know if that's the right guy to tell the story.
My immediate response was, it's a sleepy, although very sentimental and beautifully done, but it's a sleepy little film. And I would expect Tolkien's life story to have a little bit more bang for its buck and not be that sleepy. But we'll see.
Well, what do you think about his movie, Tom of Finland?
Keeping in mind the Truman Capote films we've had in the past.
It's such a dramatically different life story that I don't know that it's comparable, only in the sense of it's a profile of an artist. And the thing that we know about artists, of course, is they all lead such easy lives, such simple and easy lives.
Oh, yeah.
I mean the best stories of artists, and this is so consistent, is just a tortured life that leads to the only way to heal those wounds is express it through writing, through music, through illustration, through many forms of creative ventures. So I'm curious to see how they handle this. It seems like maybe they're going for a more romantic angle, but I don't mind that. I mean, I think if that broadens the appeal. But I'm going to go with my thought on whenever I see one of these types of films being made. I feel like a documentary about the subject is always better than the dramatized version, right? I'd rather see, and usually, although not so much anymore with the DVDs, but there'll be that accompanying backstory that tells you the real life story. I mean, it's tough to pull off when you have such little in terms of photography of his, available to form a documentary around. But, Ken Burns was able to pull it off, for certain moments in history. I mean, so I don't know. I'd like to see the documentary if it accompanies. I don't mind the narrative feature, the biopic that is the romanticized version of the life story, as long as I can get the facts. And I don't care if they just, obviously they have to compress time and whatnot to make it work and dramatize it. But I want the facts. So that's where you guys come in, because I don't know the facts. I don't know all the facts. I know some of the facts.
The big meat and potatoes of this story is that it's a forbidden love between Edith and Tolkien himself. She was not a Catholic girl. She was raised Protestant. And way back when, that was just as damaging as when one of the royal family went off and had an affair with, gasp, an American girl. Oh, gasp, And in the British culture, the fact that Tolkien would fall in love with a young lady and the reverend who had adopted him and his brother and helped raise them as boys when he had no other family, he was like, I forbid you to ever speak to this girl again. And so Tolkien went through a life of going behind people's backs to continue his love affair with her, but for a while he was separated and couldn't even communicate with her. Wow. He couldn't even write letters to her, and she almost married someone else because she had thought that Tolkien had forgotten her. So we're going to get all this romance. We're going to get a lot of this love story going on. I guarantee you we're going to get a lot of that. But how much of that impacts and is shown thematically to be an impactful part of his creative life as a writer, I'm not sure how much he's going to go down that rabbit hole, but we'll see.
Well, it's so funny how quaint that seems now. You know, in terms of just like
forbidden love.
Forbidden love, exactly.
Forbidden love.
That's like saying the forbidden cookies. You shouldn't eat those cookies. You definitely are going to want those delicious chocolate chip cookies that are, you know.
Well, what gives me encouragement for this movie is Fox Searchlight, besides being in the process of being bought by Disney, just won the biggest award possible for a movie that no one thought could have had a chance. Guillermo del Toro, of course, won the Oscar for Best Picture for his movie, and that was a Fox Searchlight film.
Right, that's true.
So
that's like
they're the studio to beat this year, and if they've been very quiet since they wrapped production on this, and it sounds like they're pushing this movie to right square into award nomination time frame, end of the year,
that's
a
what I'm
love
thinking.
story
Yeah.
with people that we can relate to, that who made stories that we all cherish. I mean, everything about this movie screams.
The only thing it's missing is sex with a sea monster, but everything else is pretty much what you're. Anyways,
Well, he had to come up with Smaug somehow.
Dun-dun-dun. I think that this is the second fantasy movie in my lifetime, I think at least within our generation, that was a fantasy film that won Best Picture. That would be Return of the King, followed by The Shape of Water many years later.
Huh.
That's
and
it.
what do you think that is that the Academy just tends to ignore genre work in terms of sci-fi, fantasy, horror? I almost feel that like the acting in those kinds of films that are filled with so many special effects is more difficult.
It is.
You know,
because they're acting against nothing.
Yeah, I mean, not only do you have to contend with drama, you have to contend with all the special effects that are going to fill the empty space that you're acting, towards, right? Like
when you've got the Saturn Awards, which are very important. When you have Saturn Awards given out by the Science Fiction Society, they have the Nebula Awards. You have a lot of
can I just say, Dr. Donald Reed forever.
Yes.
So I just want to say, Dr. Donald Reed. People know what I'm talking about, right? Am I okay? Someone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Dr. Donald Reed. I remember that. Remember him back in the day when he was doing screenings. Anyways, I'm sorry,
okay.
Cliff.
I'm with you, brother.
Cliff, I'm sorry.
I'm just saying they took the pressure off the Oscars. Now the Oscars feel like we don't have to give awards to fantasy films. They do it themselves now. So that's somewhere. But what the Academy and what the Board of Governors is doing with the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, I'll tell you what, they've been making some very misguided decisions for a very, very long time. You know it, we know it.
Well, this whole thing with the Best Picture category, where they take they nominate 10 movies or more for Best Picture,
yes,
right?
This.
And it's Token. That's Token, not Tolkien. Token, nominations for
token acknowledgement to someone. Yeah.
Right, a genre film like that should have by all accounts been nominated. I don't know. I mean, maybe what needs to happen with the Oscars is they need to diversify and spread the love around, and maybe even create a category that just awards films with special effects.
Yeah.
Like in the sense that the Grammys, they award different genres of music, and the Golden Globes.
I'm with you.
Different, perhaps there's a way to do it in a classy way that still draws attention to those films worthy of attention, the Oscar contenders, movies that deal with social issues. But I promise you, right, we're going to do a little test right now. I'm going to ask you. We all know what won for Best Picture last year.
Yeah.
What won for Best Picture 2 years ago? Don't look it up. No one look it up.
I know.
Shh. Okay, what?
I don't know.
I know exactly what it is.
2 years ago?
2 years ago.
The snafu?
Yes.
The one
Okay,
with the
it was the
mistake?
snafu.
Yeah.
That's why you remember it. Okay, 3 years ago, what won
Well,
for Best
I
Picture?
wrote
3 years
3 years ago.
I can't.
Spotlight.
People don't remember.
Spotlight.
Darn
Sorry.
it.
Sorry.
What are you?
I'm a hardcore.
Encyclopedia?
Yeah, I'm a walking hardcore.
I'm doing this experiment with the wrong person, but
I'm
most
terrible.
people don't
I'm
remember. I mean, what won the year that Star Wars was nominated for Best Picture in 1977?
Annie Hall.
dang it. All right, yes, Annie Hall is a great movie. Forget my, okay.
You're asking movie buffs.
Yes, that's true. This is about, ask the average person what, if they remember what won 2 years ago, and most people will say they don't remember. Although it is pretty memorable because that's the only year they really screwed up the giving an award.
You know what, you're right, because I asked myself what won the Best Picture a couple of years ago, and I was asking myself this just like a couple of months ago in casual conversation with a friend, and I said, bloody hell, I can't remember. And the only reason, you were right, I'm going to back you up on this. Yeah. The only reason why is because we were walking through the Kodak Theater, and I went looking up at the bloody column to see the name of the Best Picture, which are placed year by year in these established slots.
Oh, nice.
That are, the years that have the slots of Best Picture. And we take friends there to go and see The Return of the King, which is over there. And they've got every Best Picture ever. Schindler's List, every single film from the beginning of time. With Wings, the first one, Wings.
Oh, right.
First Best Picture. So I get some of my trivia of movie history just by walking through these columns at the Kodak Theater. But you're right. I would have forgotten that it was a movie about newspaper people who took on the Catholic Church scandal, and I would have completely forgotten that film was Best Picture 2 years ago. I really would have, except I bothered to look it up.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy. What the Academy needs to do, I think, first of all, is open up new categories like for motion capture performance, so that Terry Notary and Andy Serkis and the people that we know and love working in these films.
Kobe Bryant has an Oscar before Andy Serkis.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Say
okay,
that.
now first of all,
crazy.
I'm so glad that you brought up Andy Serkis because I recently got the Last Jedi, which came out. I mean, you can get it digital or Blu-ray, like I got it. There is a great extra that if you have it digital and you haven't seen the extras yet, go check out this extra. It's Andy Serkis as Snoke acting in a scene, and of course, the character Snoke is all done digital, but you see Andy Serkis actually perform Snoke in a scene with Daisy Ridley as Rey. Yeah. It is chilling, and it's Andy Serkis in the mocaps. It is so incredible. It is absolutely Andy Serkis getting some type of acknowledgement.
Thank you.
It's like the actors who, Lon Chaney and so many of the great actors who have acted, behind the masks, bringing to life. Yes, so many. I mean,
but all those old
Roddy
actors
McDowell with the original Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
I mean, but Andy Serkis in particular, it's just a different tool. Makeup, digital. You go and watch that scene where he plays Snoke. It's just to highlight what he's capable of doing. It is spectacular, and absolutely the Academy needs to. I think they're probably still trying to figure out how to use mobile phones, but that might be. The Academy's always kind of been way behind the curve, and then gets lower and lower ratings every year because people that tune in say I haven't seen these movies, which is disheartening because I think if you threw the genre films in the mix and actually broadened out some of the categories. And include some of these films that are maybe bigger at the box office, it would actually help draw attention to these smaller films. So that's just my theory, and what do I know?
Both. Now, Scott, I'm glad you. Hey, good to see you, Scott. In the live chat, we have a lot of live people who are chatting with us, and I'd like to acknowledge all of them. Hey, John Constantine. Good to see you.
Love you from Italy.
Love from Italy. We love Italians. Molto bene, grazie. Now, Scott says,
howdy.
Both directors who were associated with Middle-earth, meaning Peter Jackson and Guillermo del Toro, both of them won Academy Awards for Best Picture. That has to be a bit more than a coincidence. I do like that coincidence, though. I mean, go back, another Peter Jackson associated film, District 9, which he gently guided along through its entire making. That was the first time that the Academy Awards broadened their category for Best Picture. And District 9 got a Best Picture nomination. But the fact that Blade Runner 2049 did not get a Best Picture nomination leaves me quite cross with you, the Academy. I'm cross with you now.
Hey,
so now you know.
Speaking of Blade Runner,
okay.
The director of the latest Blade Runner, Denis Villeneuve. His name has been popping up all weekend on our Twitter feed.
Oh, really? Wow.
Because Amazon currently is hiring, or is looking to hire, the showrunner for the new Lord of the Rings $1 billion 5-season Lord of the Rings series. And
every time you mention that dollar amount, someone has to enter the room and go, oh, gasp. We need to press a button on the console that goes,
and we know 2 writers that have already given their presentations. Peter Jackson is in the mix.
Oh, wow.
Everybody is in the mix. J. Michael Straczynski has tweeted us a few times on Twitter saying he would give his left lung to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Brian
a lot
Fuller.
Of Babylon 5 people happy about that idea.
There's been Brian Fuller, who of course did Pushing Daisies with Lee Pace and Hannibal.
Yes.
And now the fans are screaming for a guy like Denis Villeneuve, who did Arrival.
Okay, one of my favorite intelligent science fiction films.
Oh God, Arrival is one of my favorites.
Who are some other names that should be considered to do The Lord of the Rings?
Please, Roger Deakins, don't go into retirement. Come work with Denis Villeneuve. After Blade Runner 2049, come on back, Mr. Deakins. Middle Earth would love you. Middle Earth would only benefit to have you photographing it. I'm sorry. I'm a fanboy at heart. I gotta say it.
Well, real quick, to answer a question from earlier about the Oscars, I think that the reason Guillermo del Toro, and Peter Jackson were both, received that Academy recognition, Best Director, is these are such complex films to make. It requires all the types of skills one would need as a filmmaker, which makes both of them actually, of course, qualified to take on this series because it's a unique. It requires not just the technical knowledge to be able to pull off.
Right.
It requires a deep knowledge of Middle Earth. And at the very least, I mean, we don't know exactly what direction they're going, or do we? We have some hints, right?
We have some hints. We know that nothing is going to be a remake. So these are all new stories based on anything that's on the page in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
And if they're not going to reframe the entire narrative of the events of the War of the Ring, which has been perfectly done by Peter Jackson, and they know that they're not going to capture lightning in a bottle again like that.
Right.
They're going to tell us, perhaps, I speculate, in an anthology format, they're going to tell us many, many different branching and some intersecting narratives, all of it found in the appendices. They can even go back and tell us about the destruction of Numenor and how Gondor was settled by the survivors of the Numenorian faithful. They can tell us all this great stuff. And ultimately, I think we'll get some stuff about the forging of the magic rings and how Sauron deceived everybody because he was assuming a fair form and taught the elves ringcraft. We're going to get a bunch of that stuff.
Is it going to be a connect? So it'll be anthology. You think it'll be anthology? There won't be any connecting. And do you think this is another theory or thought that anyone from the original Lord of the Rings films will make an appearance, even as a? Do you think that could happen?
Well, we know for sure that the Amazon has licensed all existing footage from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
So
I think
that
that's
answers
telling.
that.
I think that there'll be some connective tissue, but it'll be a story that that story has been told. And I think that anyone, first of all, why would you even have a discussion of remaking the Lord of the Rings? I mean it's sort of
you don't need
pointless.
a reboot. You don't need a
reboot. Yeah,
just tell us new stories.
I'm glad they're not going in that direction because I think that there are just some things that were just so pulled off so well you can't repeat that success. How could you improve on it, or what would be your take that would make it different? I mean, at every level that those films succeeded so well. Mm-hmm. I'm not just talking about the theatrical release versions. I'm talking about the versions in their, the extended cuts and everything else. I mean, it just, from the casting to the way in which it was, made in New Zealand, to the special effects, which, many of them, at least early on, done not digital, using simple tricks like forced perspective, which is something that's existed since the invention of film.
If it worked and won Oscars before, just do it again.
Well, yeah. So I'm just curious where they're gonna draw from, how it will connect. I mean, if you've looked at anything, fantasy, Game of Thrones, I think, is a huge success, building up now towards a finale in 2019. And is Amazon looking toward that, saying, do something Games of Thrones-ish set in the world of that Tolkien created.
The short answer is
I'm sorry, that's a long question.
But you're correct that this intellectual property, Tolkien and Middle-earth, is the only other equivalent thing that could be as big as what George R.R. Martin has written. But Mr. Martin hasn't even finished writing it. And the fact is that Tolkien has a couple of generations of fans backing him up.
Right.
There's an even bigger concrete audience that might come to the table. So they want new subscribers. As Justin asks people live on the chat, would you guys drop money to get a brand new Amazon subscription just for the sake of this one Middle-earth series?
The
answer
yes.
for us is always yes.
Yeah, yes, and it comes with free shipping. It all comes with free shipping.
That's
when
actually
you subscribe to Amazon.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, but back to what you just said, okay? And that you leveled out a whole good thing to unbox. Let's unbox that.
Sorry,
Chris. Let's unbox that.
Sorry, I knew I would do that.
Guys, I'm going to jump in real quick.
Do
you know how many people just,
we gotta
including
get in
me,
here.
JC, we've got
I think I'm on there.
Yeah, we got
you're on. Okay,
camera shot.
good. Okay.
including me, are going to pay for YouTube Red to watch Karate Kid. Or the Cobra Kai series.
Yeah.
Everybody on Twitter is like, I got paying for YouTube. I can't believe it. And that's Karate Kid. So will people get Amazon Prime to watch new Lord of the Rings? Of course they will.
Okay.
If you don't have it already, of course you will.
Well, you know what?
That's an easy question to answer.
It's an easy question.
It's got something of a big vacuum to fill when Game of Thrones is off the air. It has the burden, a lot of burden, to be associated also with Peter Jackson's earlier success. So there's not one, but there's two big shadows that this new TV series is going to be walking in the shadow of. Two other successes that precede it. And that means our anticipation, all of our conversations about it over the next year and a half or more, are going to be slightly colored by this bias. I've got to admit, it's true.
Does Amazon have anything that is their Stranger Things or their Daredevil or the thing that you associate? Like Netflix, remember, didn't do original content,
Amazon,
right? It was,
I think,
what is it? The Man in the High Castle, maybe.
Yeah,
so
stuck.
this has to be their put them on the map thing. If it fails, it won't sink Amazon, but if you can go to YouTube, you can go to Hulu, you can go to Amazon, or you can go to Netflix, and Game of Thrones is not good.
Yeah.
How many creators are going to say, I want to go with the guy who blew Lord of the Rings? Nobody's going to want to go there. You're not going to be the go-to.
I think everybody recognizes that it's a challenging effort, no matter what, because you're walking into the biggest Oscar-winning film series of all time. So
that's why The Hobbit was looked at so crossly by everyone, was because it was walking in the shadow of Peter's earlier success. Nobody in the fan base gave The Hobbit much of a chance after they were like, it's not the Lord of the Rings, grumpy. We're all grumpy now.
Well, while you're here, JC, I want to ask you, because a bunch of people on our Facebook page this weekend were said, anybody but Rian Johnson. And I took umbrage at this. I thought Rian Johnson would be a wonderful addition, maybe not to showrun, but do a few episodes here and there of the Lord of the Rings series. And of course, Rian
did Breaking Bad.
The director of The Last Jedi also did some of the best episodes of Breaking Bad.
Yes.
Would you agree with those Facebook commenters?
I like Looper,
I guess
too.
I would say if you want him to showrun Lord of the Rings, I believe he has demonstrated very clearly a look. Okay, Last Jedi. In Last Jedi, what you're trying to do, right, is justify the fact that Luke Skywalker, as seen for 6 hours of the original trilogy, is no longer that guy, right? Now, you can say whatever you want about that movie, but the fact that 50% of fans didn't buy into the fact that he justified what they did with Luke Skywalker, right? Because if they justified what they did with Luke, the audience will buy anything. You could make Carrie Fisher into B. Arthur and own the cantina. And if you justify it within the context of the movie, people will buy into it. I think you're inviting trouble by doing that. This is somebody
you're on the anti-Ryan Johnson for Lord of the Rings team.
Whatever you want to say about Last Jedi, the simple fact of the matter is he divided the fan base like no other. Nobody, not even the prequels, divided the fan base the way that Ryan Johnson did.
Well, but wait, let me remind you, because this is why I'm called the Ancient One sometimes. I saw The Empire Strikes Back in the theater in 1980, and it destroyed me as a kid because here, you learn that, of course, Darth Vader's Luke's father. If he's going to defeat the villain, he has to kill his own father. People were pissed off. People booed at the end of the movie. People were upset. They went like they were like there was a big like the movie's over. But I mean, Han Solo being taken away in carbonite. It ended on a cliffhanger.
What's the cliffhanger at the end of Last Jedi? There is none. The movie's
there is none. I think I am in the camp that I love Last Jedi. I think it's also incredibly radical. I also think it's the most radical Star Wars film since The Empire Strikes Back because of how it sort of wiped away a lot of stuff that JJ did. It basically played on your expectations because the easy thing to do would be have Luke come and be a badass. That's a different movie. That's Heir to the Empire. I've read those books. They're great. Those books are awesome. But this is Luke at the end. This is Luke realizing it's the most radical Star Wars film from the fact that it's like an anti-war movie. There's comments on war, on there's so much.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I'm saying within the context of that movie, all of these things are derivative. None of this exists within the context of that movie. Meaning the idea that if a character changes off screen and they're just like, accept it. You can't do that. It'd be like if in the new movies Gandalf was a long-haired blonde woman who loved war, and you're like, why is it? And be like, accept it. You're like, but I've watched freaking 12 hours of Gandalf be this other thing, and they're like, well, this isn't Gandalf's thing anymore. This isn't Peter Jackson anymore, guys. This isn't even New Line anymore. This is the new Lord of the Rings, and you're like, but. You have to show me when Gandalf went from being an old man to a beautiful woman. Like, you have to show it.
There was no sex changes in in Star Wars.
No, but wait, just to say, first of all, what you said is absolutely brilliant from the standpoint of you identified exactly why fans have a problem with it. And here I will say that it worked for me and I enjoyed it. And having said that, I completely understand why people didn't like it because... And I feel like they waited too long to make sequels. We never got to see Han, Luke, and Leia get back together again. At least have a movie. The first movie should have been something else. Or maybe there should have been another trilogy before this introducing new characters. Like what you're saying is completely legitimate. And having a character who we have lived with for how long did we wait to see Luke come back? It's the only thing I cared about was I wanted to see how Luke. So what you said, I think, is completely valid. I think you're just like, this is why everyone who's like upset about Last Jedi, I understand and I agree with. But
this is what's at risk with Lord of the Rings.
For me. Sorry.
So the thing, yes, and I agree. Like, if you love Last Jedi, I get it. But for me, like having gone to film school, was taught that like, if there's a big change, you have to show the change. If you show a gun, you better shoot the gun. And I just feel like Last Jedi showed us a lot of guns and showed us a lot of fireworks, but one never led to the other. And
well, let me ask you this:
so
if you have that opinion of the Last Jedi and the choices that the filmmakers made,
and that Ryan Johnson doesn't know what the word fidelity to the original means, okay,
I get that. Did that affect your enthusiasm to going to future Star Wars movies like Han Solo?
100%. 100%.
Are you going to be there opening night?
I will be at Han Solo opening day because I think it looks like Star Wars in a way I've never seen Star Wars. Where Last Jedi looks like Star Wars in a way that I never wanted to see Star Wars. Han Solo looks like Star Wars, but it's totally different than anything I've ever seen, but it still feels like Star Wars. And I'll tell you, Episode 9, I literally just don't have any enthusiasm for Episode 9 because I'm just like, what are they gonna do? They're gonna start over? I'm gonna watch the Empire versus the Rebels again?
Don't worry, J.J. Abrams has it well in hand. I have all the faith in the world in J.J.
But to go back to the question, I think that if you have Peter Jackson show running and he gives Rian Johnson a box to play in, here's your sandbox. Don't color outside these lines.
Yeah.
I think it could be amazing.
See, but you identified exactly. I think the problem is the medium, right? Like when you're doing these big epic movies, it's not like Game of Thrones where we've been, able to see characters grow over seasons and to see characters change from, changing their morality to seeing so many of the female characters in Game of Thrones just grow a backbone.
Are incredible, yeah.
They're the better characters in Game of Thrones because they change. Jon Snow, he's pretty much Jon Snow. I mean, zombie Jon Snow. But this is maybe the problem with Star Wars is would Star Wars make a better, like if they, let's say in the future they remade Star Wars. Okay. In a weird fantasy, and don't even think that that's not a possibility that they would remake.
Oh, and they will with Peter Quill and Gamora will join in with the Star Wars crew, I'm sure.
They're going to connect the universes with time travel. But seriously, I think that part of the problem is that we've now gotten used to some of the greatest long-form storytelling, from Breaking Bad to Game of Thrones to Dexter, except the last season or two, to so many long form. And I think maybe that's the thing is now you look at Star Wars, it's like so much has to happen in such a short time. Is it the medium that
or are you trying to tell too big of a story? Maybe the story should have been the fall of Kylo Ren. Maybe the story, right? Because the original Star Wars trilogy, and even the prequel trilogy, wasn't so much, right? And if you want to get into The Hobbit and tie it back, a lot of people's problems with The Hobbit is. This isn't in The Hobbit, right?
Right.
And are you trying to tell too big of a story, right? The cool thing about a movie that is opposite of TV is in a movie there shouldn't be a wasted syllable, right? Everything in a 2-hour movie should be needed. It needs to be there, and if it doesn't need to be there, it should be gone. In a story, in a Game of Thrones where you have 10, 12, 13 hours across 7 seasons, so you have 700 hours to tell this story, you can get into some of this like, let's just watch them do this, or let's just watch them do that. Which is great. You can get more depth to the characters, but if you're going to choose a movie as your medium, you have the responsibility to make sure everything in it is needed.
Well, Cliff,
could not be. If you remove this from the movie doesn't work. Yeah. And it's not just a criticism about Star Wars movies. I think a lot of movies now are very. They just leave. They put stuff in to satisfy geeky. What if Wolverine fought Deadpool? How cool would that be?
Well, that's and the then
you just you're talking about fan service, or
there's just so much fan service that
fan
you
service don't versus the forced economy of visual storytelling, right?
Correct.
Kennedy's on the phone. Wants to talk to you. Wants to offer you a job.
No, but look, Tolkien fans had these same debates. There were many people, both on the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogy, that said, that's not my Tolkien. Remember, there were people that walked out of Two Towers when those 2 hobbits got taken to Osgiliath. And like, Tolkien never took those guys to Osgiliath.
I remember being quite pissed off that Faramir dragged Bilbo and Frodo, unceremoniously dragged them all the way over to a place in an effort to take them as captives back to Gondor.
Faramir's probably the most ruined character in the movies compared to the books. And so the Tolkien fans have already been there, but it has never been as toxic.
Éowyn is the ruined character.
Really?
Yeah, she doesn't get her dialogue the way she should have. And all of a sudden, anyways, go ahead.
But is the difference that, and I'll use Ready Player One as an example. Ready Player One, if you've read the book, is insanely different from the movie. I, having finished the movie, I didn't know how I felt about it because it was so different from the book.
So you've read the book
Yes.
and seen the film. I thought it fell incredibly short. I think the book is such a far better experience. You're right.
I agree.
I think the world building, I think, is the weakness in it because the world building is so good in Ready Player One. You really get a sense of, and the economic disparity that contributes. And I just thought that they did the Cliff Notes version.
They did a like Romeo and Juliet timeline and then took the Cliff Notes version of that. Yeah. But as a movie from beginning to end, I saw it with Elliot. You know Elliot.
Of course, yeah.
And Elliot's never read the book. And he's like, oh my God, that totally worked for me in every way. Because he didn't know what he was missing. So in Lord of the Rings, if you don't know, like I don't, who's never read the books, what isn't supposed to be there, but if I watch those movies, is there stuff that I can pluck out of them and go, that doesn't need to be there? Or is everything in there essential to the thematic parts of the movie? Does it all build? Is there a cause and an effect for every choice that Peter Jackson made? I would argue yes. Is there a cause and effect to every choice that Rian Johnson made in Last Jedi? Aside from, say what you want about the Rey and Kylo Ren fight. It's cool. I've read it in 100 different fan fictions. But is it necessary to be in the movie, and does it make sense? Meaning, did the Emperor's Royal Guards turn on Darth Vader when he killed the Emperor? No. Why do these guys, they're the Praetorian Guard, they're loyal to the leader of the Empire or whatever you want, New Order or whatever they call it now. Why do they turn on Kylo Ren? But you don't ask that question. Like, I asked that question because within the context of the movie, the socio-political, nothing of that is ever set up. You know the Empire rules the galaxy. You know the rebels are up against it. You know the Galactic Senate's been dissolved within the first 20 minutes of New Hope.
Yeah.
What is the difference between the Resistance and the New Republic? Well, you have to read the book.
Look, we're going.
Why does C-3PO have a red arm? Well, you have to read the comic book.
Look, Lord of the Rings suffers from a lot of the same debates. But the thing is that all of the changes that Peter Jackson made, that he's been faulted for by the hardcore fans, did not detract from their love and passion of the movies overall. And that's a big difference that I see between Lord of the Rings and Star Wars right now, is that fans have huge issues with his choice, Rian Johnson's choices that he made with the most loved character, Luke Skywalker. And Peter Jackson made some challenging choices as well with Tolkien's characters, but we don't fault the whole thing because I feel like Tolkien fans might be more forgiving. So
this is what I'll say. As somebody who had never read The Hobbit, who's most of the way through The Hobbit now, and we discussed this last week, is the stuff that Peter Jackson added to The Hobbit, I thought added so much weight, not only to The Hobbit, but to The Lord of the Rings. And look, I know that's blasphemous from a certain point of view, but as somebody who didn't know the background, I instantly understood why dwarves and elves don't get along better than I ever did watching Lord of the Rings. That added something to it, right? And I didn't have to sit there and go, why? I don't get this. Why is this character doing that? And that's where Peter Jackson succeeded in both those movies, is you never had to ask, especially in The Hobbit, is it answered so many of the questions that the movies that were an introduction to a Tolkien fan, The Hobbit answered so many of the questions that I wrote down to ask you about Lord of the Rings.
Right.
You know, and while that is so far away from the source material, it still is like, you know, and we discussed it, like Legolas doesn't like dwarves because this friggin' dwarf stole his woman. That makes perfect sense. And like, I know, look, Justin's shaking his head, But like to me, within the context of what Peter Jackson's trying to do, it was justified.
Yeah, well, you know
You
what?
know?
I get that.
I can't believe I'm talking like this right now. But
No, it's great.
I can appreciate JC again because we've had the pleasure to touch down on this conversation. The way that you are digesting, or rather consuming, these big narrative stories from J.R.R. Tolkien is a whole new way than the way that they were originally written and given to this audience. I mean, this audience, meaning me, the old school OG bookworm who's still got glasses perched on the end of his nose, looking like Dumbledore over here. And I'm the guy who consumes Tolkien on those terms like I have since I was a 10-year-old boy. Now, you get the advantage of Peter Jackson and his very thoughtful writing team, Philippa Boyens and Fran Walsh, giving us more, stuff between the bricks, mortar between all these bricks, mentions of other magic rings and other people, and we get to see Saruman as a good guy before he turns evil in Fellowship of the Ring. It's great to have all those pieces of context. Forever, I'll give you that you're getting to enjoy that. And I'm kind of envious that you're getting to enjoy the filmic experience that way, but because I can never have that filmic experience. I'm reading The Hobbit and saying, thank God there is no stifling love triangle in The Hobbit between Tauriel and Legolas and Gimli and Keeley, excuse me.
So it would be similar to like when I watch the Star Wars special editions, where I'm like, wow, it's really cool to see Jabba the Hutt here. But I wish it wasn't really in the movie, or it's really cool to see the new space battle outside the Death Star, but it's not what I want to see.
I will say this. I think that the Lord of the Rings has the advantage of being a written work that exists all as one story planned out from the beginning, whereas I believe that the Star Wars films have been a hodgepodge that has had. I mean, Lucas said he had the prequels worked out in his head. I don't know that I completely believe that. There's a really good book. There's a book that I would recommend, and I rarely do this. It's a book I recommend you get as an audiobook. It's called The Secret History of Star Wars. It's a great book. It's about 40 hours. If you have never read this book, it is hands down the best book ever written about the making of Star Wars. It's like listening to an audio documentary. It's riveting. It's absolutely riveting.
Audible.com?
Audible.com.
Yes.
And I don't know if they're a sponsor, but if they are, we'll give you the code. And I want to say to Sarah earlier, that's my Thrawn too. But that book lays out how much development went into just the first movie and how dramatically the original story of Star Wars changed from 1972, 73, when it was like this treatment in his head and another 74. Like, it shows all the registered treatments are read in the book. You get to hear how characters changed, how Gloria and Willard Huck at the end added humor as a whole layer to it, how a lot of things that were bad were cut out by Marshall Lucas. Like, I'm telling you, you get that book, and the guy who reads the book, the name escapes me, he is a voice actor who does every person's voice. So not only does he does George Lucas, and on there is a perfect George. Then he does a Lawrence Kasdan. George had these little furry. He also does Irvin Kershner.
Really?
He went to the planet Dagobah. I had Yoda this puppet. Guy does
great.
He does Harrison Ford. He does Mark Hamill.
Whoa.
Get this book, The Secret History of Star Wars.
That sounds great.
I'm telling you, for you will be riveted because it walks through all the choices Lucas made, and it has all this documentation. And there's an interview that I actually did with Gary Kurtz a couple years ago that's on filmthreat.com where that's quoted in the book. Some amazing stuff about what was supposed to happen originally in Revenge of the Jedi. So you need to, as a fan, I know you're a super fan.
When it
but
was
you also
called
know,
Revenge of the Jedi.
When it's called, but you also are someone who understands cinema and you've made films yourself. And of course, you've created this incredible thing that we all get to enjoy. We get to show up and have drinks, and you've got to make sure that the lights are on and whatnot. But so you got to read that book.
I'll definitely check it out.
So good, you'll love it.
Okay, I want to get.
Don't
back
let
to
the 40 hours dissuade you. Okay, sorry, we have so much to talk about.
Now you want me to pick that one up too.
Yes,
but
get it.
Before things get completely derailed, which I kind of love doing,
I
I want to offer this. If you have a problem as a Star Wars fan with Rian Johnson and his lack of fidelity, and if you think that means me, as a Ringer fan, am going to say, no, Rian Johnson, you don't have any, fidelity in any fibers of your being. Do not step foot near my Middle-earth property. If you think that the conventional wisdom is going to influence us, a lot of us Ringer fans might be more forgiving, like Justin said earlier. We might give a little bit more of a breathing space for someone like Rian Johnson, who is a quite talented filmmaker. But if he does come in to work on the show, I would rather have a very strict Kevin Feige type of overlord over this entire Amazon thing. And I don't know, but Jeff,
who is that going to be? I think that's the big question.
Jeff
Obviously,
Bezos needs to hire.
they're going to get talented directors. And Rian Johnson, isn't he busy working on a whole new Star Wars trilogy? Isn't he?
Yeah.
What he's supposed to be doing? When he's going to have time to direct?
I want someone as an executive producer or an overseer like Kevin Feige to control what talented people are bringing in to the series.
The success of the Star Wars animated shows rests on Dave Filoni's shoulders. This is a guy who understands Star Wars.
And his hat, because he has an amazing hat, not unlike Justin Sewell.
That's right.
He steers that, right? The Game of Thrones guys, D.B. Weiss.
And
David Benioff. They drive that. You know what I'm saying? You don't walk in as a director and go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make Jon Snow fly like Keanu Reeves in the end of The Matrix. Like, that doesn't
that
fly,
would be cool.
Look,
and in that way, that's what this needs. And I think they finally got that in Star Wars. I think Jon Favreau will do a great job as the overlord of Star Wars live action TV. And I think that's what Lord of the Rings needs. You need to get one of these people.
So off the top of your head, who's the first name that pops in your head?
Would be Peter Jackson. 100%. If it's not Peter Jackson, I would say... who would be really good?
Look, it's already taken you too long, and that's true with all of the fans. Peter Jackson's the only answer. He doesn't have to direct all the films. He just has to be the guiding hand. Look, how many episodes of Breaking Bad did the creator actually direct? Not that many. He did, but he hired people like Rian Johnson, Michelle McNamara, and the all-stars of television directing to bring his story to life. So I think Peter just needs to be up here and bring in a bunch of talented people.
The only thing he needs to do is look at dailies and read scripts and go like this or like this. And if he does that, I think you can plug anybody else in there and it'll be okay.
Some people have more experience with science fiction and fantasy. Straczynski, the guy who blew everyone away in the 90s with Babylon 5, that guy, if Straczynski says, I'm going to float in a cloud because I'm a hardcore Ringer fan, it's in my blood, I'm a big Tolkien nutcase, if he says that, then great, then let's bring in the people who actually have that in their DNA instead of hired guns. Another guy I think
Straczynski would be great.
How about Jonathan Frakes, who has directed so many TV shows, directed a lot of Star Trek, The Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and he's directed NCIS and other police procedurals. So he
can come in under.
He's very successful.
The guiding hand.
Honestly,
television director.
We've got to move. We've got to move on.
Honestly,
to our next topic.
Okay.
You know who would kill it?
But I like the idea of Star Trek.
Dave Filoni would kill it. I would give Dave Filoni any series.
In Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings is all through his cartoons too. I think anything he's going to invest himself in, he's proven that he does it 110%.
Deal. All right, we're moving on. Thank you, JC.
All right.
Oh my gosh,
that was
very good, JC.
That's what I love about the energy of this new location that we have. Is that whether it's a quiet night with JC, whether we have some of you, our regular viewers, sitting here at the bar, which we've had many times, asking questions and being part of the conversation, or even if it's like next week when Kevin Smith will be returning here and we will be the first show. We'll be Kevin's opener.
Next week's Kevin show's canceled. He'll be back here on the 29th.
Okay, 29th.
But we'll be open for the show next week.
So, you guys, come down to Hollywood and be a part of this conversation because the fan voice is more important than ever. But Chris,
Yes, it is.
Wait,
one of the
yes. You said yes. I'm here. Yes.
well, look, one of the
guys.
reasons that we
I love
wanted
you
to
guys.
bring you on the show
Yes.
today is because lately you've kind of become an evangelist for collectors of geek memorabilia.
Not in a religious sense, no, but yes, yes.
yeah.
I am very passionate about. I mean, as everyone in this room, and probably anyone who comes, to Scum and Villainy or watches the One Ring streaming show or goes to the OneRing.net, we like to collect things. There is sort of a Venn diagram of things that people collect. You're into this, or maybe you're into Batman, but you don't collect Batman. You know what I mean? You like Marvel, but you don't collect Marvel. But like you're into Lord of the Rings, but you collect only the 1/6 scale figures, or only the sideshow
only the
collectibles,
1/10 or the
yeah,
1/16.
exactly. So
or
so
only
it's,
the pop vinyls.
it's weird. There's just all sorts
Yeah.
of there's what's your fandom, and then
Or
what's
the mini epics.
what do you collect? And as we have seen the world of Facebook just become less and less a pleasurable experience. I want to just let everyone watching right now know about a website called Gemr.com, Gemr.com, which it's a social network for collectors. It's you find your fandom through your clubs, you post things that you collect. You can admire them, you can show them off, you can have a digital version of your collection on your mobile device where you can just download Gemr. And as I have on my mobile device, I have all different collections that I have.
Cool.
I collect vintage movie cameras is one of the things I collect. But I also have a lot of Batman and Star Wars stuff, and then I have DIY stuff that I make. But
That's
we
very
know,
cool.
if we know anything about Lord of the Rings, Tolkien fans, they love to collect stuff. They love collectibles.
Well,
right?
we've done a
Yes,
few
they do.
episodes in the last couple months with our Collecting the Precious editor, Josh Long, who has kind of been the champion for collectibles and has a personal collection that is as big as the Weta
Really?
Cave itself.
Yeah,
He has
quite
an
something.
epic collection.
Epic
It's
collection.
pretty.
So
it's
Way
epic.
epic.
let's try to get him on the hotline and see if we can.
Josh also is a longtime contributor to the OneRing.net, and he brings us these great stories about the collectibles that are licensed and what's coming out.
What's even cooler is there is an official One Ring club on Gemr.
Yeah.
It's if you go to gemr.com, you can just look up the One Ring
Or
and
look
join the
up
club and
Tolkien.
sign up. Or there's a picture of it right now. You can go. What's the URL? What's the URL? It's on
all
the
I did
Twitter
was-
feed, actually. It's on the Twitter feed. If you go to the Twitter feed, there's a link that takes you directly into the One Ring Club, where this should be streaming right now, if everything works. Brandon Husk, are you watching this?
I just typed in Tolkien in the
You just
search
typed in Tolkien?
bar,
Yeah,
and
so keywords
it's
work.
the thing that pops up right there, and we've got over 100. Well, let's look today. 192 members.
Wow.
in just
And growing.
in just a couple days.
But just
Wow.
but just like any social network, you can follow people so you can see their collections. They can follow you back.
Oh, wow,
You
look
can
at-
post things. You can direct message people. It's
Cool.
all the stuff that you used to like about social media on Facebook, but without the political yelling at each other or the baby pictures
Yeah.
for members of your family
This
that
is
maybe
just-
you just
Look at
I don't know,
that
but-
Tolkien bear.
This is so
Okay, this
cool.
is crazy. Okay, wow,
This is
that
so
is
cool.
someone just posted that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
How do I follow Mad Eye?
So click
GMT?
on Mad Eye.
Oh,
You can
I
just go.
just-
It just pops right up.
It
Just
just
follow.
pops right up, and I'll hit
And you
follow right
now
there.
when that goes,
Oh,
you're not
I'll-
signed in.
I'll
You're not.
log in
You got to
yeah.
sign in. But when you follow people, you'll see as they post things, it pops up in your feed. So really, any sort of fandom, whether it's Marvel or there's a Batman club, there's an anime club, there's that has almost 20,000 members at this point.
Wowzer.
It's different. It's all different types of fandom. But in particular, if you're someone who
Oh my
really likes to
gosh.
document your collection,
Yeah.
and you're like me, like I like to know what I have at any given time.
Yes.
Look at those prancing pony
Oh wow,
mugs.
that is cool.
Wow.
That is cool.
They have Bilbo's contract.
This is all on Gemr.
This is just Mad Eye Gamgee's collection.
But it's a cool way to be able to admire other people's stuff and then just see, because I can't afford. Sometimes I just like to look at the pictures because I know I'll never be able to afford it or have the room for it, because I live in Southern California where rent is how's the rent?
Yeah.
It's impossibly expensive.
How many different languages can you say the word insane?
yeah. It's a little crazy.
Really bad.
Yeah, so storage is an issue, but I think being able to just check out people's stuff and being able to just connect with other collectors. Also, I like seeing the things that people post that are impossible finds. Like I found in you can go to my profile. I'm on Gemr. You can look me up. I'm that Chris Gore, ThatChrisGore, that Chris Gore. I found I didn't know they did this. The '66 Batman TV series, Adam West. They made bed sheets. I've never seen them, but someone sent me a picture of them, so I put it in my wanted file. Things that I admire and want, and I'm looking for. It's bed sheets that actually make a Batmobile out of your bed. So you put the bed sheets on your bed, and it's a Batmobile. I've never even seen. I thought I knew everything, and so.
Dude, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, but this is what's cool about, because I think people kind of find the things they like. They like a certain scale of action figure. They like the more expensive ones, or they get into. I myself also like movie prop replicas.
Yeah,
I have a original lightsaber, Luke Skywalker lightsaber.
Stuff.
I have some cool stuff. You've been to my place. I've got I've got some. You'll see if you follow me on Gemr. You'll see the collections that I have in the.
And Josh, are you there? But with audio, there? Are you there, Josh?
Josh, unmute yourself, Josh. Josh, who is.
I see him connected, but I'm not hearing any audio or video. All right,
let's see if we can get him in. We'll try it one more time. Yeah. That means even Gemr, Gemr, can be used for books. Like, what if you've got
there's a book
first
club.
editions?
Exactly. There's a book club. You can also start your own club. So let's say that you are I only collect Frodo. Yeah. That's all I collect is Frodo stuff. You can start a Frodo club, and obviously because of the connections with the One Ring Club, people who are in the One Ring Club can also join the Frodo club or start whatever club they want. Hey, you're here.
Hey, Josh.
There's Josh.
You took your ring off. Now we can't hear him.
I can't hear. For some reason, I can't hear. There's no mic. Do you have it on mute? I can't. Nope, we can't hear you.
Use signs.
Yeah. ASL. Yeah. American Sign Language.
I don't know.
Well, Josh is one of the.
We're trying to get it working.
Well, Josh is one of the curators of the official One Ring Club on Gemr, along with yourself, Justin. Yeah. So
he's really the king of collectibles here.
No. Well, there's a video of his collection that he posted onto the Gemr Club. That collection it's insane.
Can we show that?
Yeah. You gotta get find that.
Which one is it? Is it this one?
That's the video of him talking about the club. But I think it's right there. Well, you should actually, you know what? You should actually play that video. Play the video of. Oh, this is neat. Can you throw that up?
All right, guys, got another review set up for you. It's going to be of the Mouth of Sauron on Steed. Showed up at Comic-Con this year. It's an absolutely fantastic statue. I love it. Detail's great. Paint's great. It's one of those statues that was worth the. He made his appearance in the extended edition, so 2004. So we're going on 13 years almost. So definitely worth the wait. Absolutely fantastically sculpted by Sam Gow. The paint on is absolutely amazing. I'm really not sure if I don't know that I think the production version looks better than the prototype, and that's high marks because that prototype was pretty badass. So absolutely fantastic. It was, like I said, worth the wait. $699, $750 on the edition size. He is low stock. There is a payment plan, but there's not going to be many of them left. We at the Flame of Voodoo have been able to kind of get a rough idea of how many are left. And I think like the last I saw was like I don't know, 10 or something like that. So not very many. It's definitely a piece worth adding, doing the payment plan if you have to, because it's a very special piece. It comes in a bunch of parts, so I'll explain all the parts. It's got the awesome art box that we've seen on the last couple of Hobbit items, so I'm excited to see one of those for Lord of the Rings and show you guys that. It's gonna be this is gonna be a pretty fun review. I'm very excited to finally have this guy, add him to my rider collection, because that's definitely one of my favorite lines or sublines, I guess, within the whole Lord of the Rings or Hobbit lines. Just absolutely fantastic. He's outside. Let's go meet him up.
For you here, go over it. Obviously, you got the front of the box. You got the mouth of Sauron himself. You got the sticker again. Well, I shouldn't say sticker. It's a graphic on the box. It says limited edition 750. It says who the character is. We got Lord of the Rings. We got Weta. Really great design. I'm loving it still. I love in the back here, I don't know, it almost looks elvish. I don't know why, but to me it does. Maybe I'm wrong, you can tell me in the comments. I'll show you this side of the box. Other side's basically the same. It's got a little piece of the mouth of Sauron's horse behind on it. I'm not going to show you that side simply because the box took a hit in shipping and it's got a dent in the box. So this box kind of took a little bit of a beating. Got the back of the box with a art piece design of the Black Gates, which I absolutely love. Absolutely love the Black Gate sequence. I love the art stuff on the back. I'm an art junkie with this behind the scenes stuff. I've got so many of these books. Looks really fantastic. Flip you back around as I wander off with the camera here. Alright, show you the inside of the box. And you got creating in the mouth of Saruman steed. You got all the people that worked on it. Really cool. I love these new boxes. Absolutely cool. Alright, well, as you can see, there's the mouth of Sauron. We'll be right back with him set up. Alright, got the mouth of Sauron set up here. As usual, I'll give you kind of a look over, a little 360 before we get into some of the finer details.
These are Kevin's cameras. It's all set up for this show. Oh, I thought that this was... The mic is in picture. The mic is in picture.
Is in picture.
The mic is in picture.
We wanted to show it's a full 15-minute video that you can watch over on the
MOS,
collector's page.
Mid-out sound, remember MOS, which was mid-out sound.
So let's look at some of the other collectibles that people have posted. Elisar has posted. Is this a little mini pop? Look at that. This is a keychain.
I didn't even know that existed.
A Gandalf keychain.
I've seen those at the store. Those are cute.
What is this? Map of Middle Earth in Elvish by Larry Danner.
Oh, cool.
Ooh, that looks rad.
Can we zoom? Oh, look. Oh, cool. That is super geeky cool, and I want one. I want one.
That looks really awesome.
Do you know Elvish lettering at the Tengwar? It is very, very weird to try to read because the letters, the vowels, and the consonants are written in a non-linear style. And to be able to read the language of Elvish, instead of reading in one line left to right or right to left, you actually have to read in a loopy shape to be able to read the words. It's very strange, but I do like it. It's a really cool language.
Of course you know how to read that.
A little bit. If it's English, I can transcribe from if it's English, but I don't know the Elvish words.
I love that William here says, my humble collection.
That is not humble. Look at this. That is like...
Cliff, can you just throw out some ballpark prices for Gandalf's staff and Sting and a Morgul blade?
Well, no. The thing that really caught my eye is in the far right side of the picture, that first edition of the Silmarillion.
That's a first edition.
What?
Yeah, that's a very early edition. That might be the first American edition. It might be first edition. I don't know, but that's
the one that caught your eye.
What caught my eye.
Giant Gandalf staff.
What's also interesting is that rock and roll, like real like late 70s, early 70s artwork in that poster.
In the middle?
Yeah, that is a poster done by an artist whose name escapes me, but this is it's a rather infamous Lord of the Rings.
A lot of people had that poster growing up.
But if someone on the live chat is going to probably remind me, or it'll blow up on the hotline.
But each of those items should be separately listed, so you could actually get a full description, which would be really. I'd love to get more information.
Oh yeah, people are already commenting and liking a lot of these posts.
Yeah.
But show off your own stuff. I mean, if you just you can.
I'm gonna do that when I go home. I'm gonna start taking pictures of some of the crazy.
I'm going to follow you then. I'll follow you on there. We will chat. I'm on there every day.
Because I've got some board games. I want to show off like the best Lord of the Rings board games. They are so cool, dude.
I think there's actually a board game club as well.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
There's a board game club.
These are all pictures of Josh's collection.
Holy wow.
He is no joke.
Yeah, no, he is. But see, how does he get this? How can he store all this? He needs another house for his stuff.
He lives not on the coast.
Right, that's true. He doesn't live where
that's the secret.
Rent is.
Don't live where a house is $750,000. A starter house,
right?
$750,000.
Yeah.
And you know, I believe he's in an area of the Midwest where they still traditionally build homes with a basement. So he has this whole extra floor turned into a man cave underground. He's got extra room in his place.
So that's the Tolkien collectors community that we just launched on Gemr.
On Gemr.
Almost 200 people just in the first 48 hours.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
And
so cool.
I tell you, Cliff, we've had many discussions over 6 years, 300 episodes, and we've done many conversations with like the sword maker from Lord of the Rings who creates collectible versions of the swords in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. But one of the most requested things on the One Ring that people have been asking for is like a way for fans to connect with each other and maybe facilitate trades and sales. Because what we found over the years, because Tolkien collectibles from the movies have been going on for over 15 years, is that you get to a point where you're not like Josh, you don't have a whole floor of a house, but you run out of shelf space, but you want that new piece. But you don't want to just sell your old pieces on Craigslist or eBay. You want to keep it in the collectibles family.
Right.
And that's one thing that I think Gemr kind of really appealed to us, was that you can kind of validate who you buy and sell from with Gemr and keep it in the community.
And that feels better. That feels good. Like you're not just selling it to some stranger somewhere on the internet. You're actually within the wider fabric of all these other enthusiasts who are around you and support your own collecting habit as much as you support theirs. I kind of dig that.
Yeah.
Go Gemr. Go Gemr. Because Gem is truly outrageous. Oh, 80s.
I love the series
throwback.
Gem.
And the holograms.
There should be a Gem in the Holograms club. Or maybe a Misfits club.
I love
the Misfits were way cooler than Gem.
So good.
But so
good.
you can just go up to Gemr.com, Gemr.com, and sign up and look up the One Ring and join the club. Simple as that.
Yeah,
Find us there.
It's the only Tolkien club there. And the thing that's cool about as we've played around with it all weekend, is that you keep the fandoms separate. Like Spider-Man will not show up in the feed, and he's not supposed to. Like Tolkien is here, and you'll only get Tolkien in here, and that's one thing
that's cool.
that all the fans of multi fandoms want to keep their worlds separate.
Well, also, I think just as a social network, we've become so used to just going on Facebook, and then you forget why you went to go on Facebook, and it's just you're doing it as habit. I just know, and there's a lot of noise. I feel like Facebook is filled with so much noise, and I don't know if you watch those Senate hearings with Mark Zuckerberg, but a little scary about. So, this is also what I enjoy about this is
that supports the conspiracy theory that Zuckerberg is one of the reptilians.
Well,
secretly. It has
all the best parts of a social network, but without the noise. It's only for collectors and only for the types of fandoms that you choose to follow. So I do follow like Marvel, DC, Batman, Star Wars. There's a vintage Star Wars club. And the One Ring, and there's a Bakelite club. Is anyone into Bakelite? Bakelite jewelry from the. No one knows
jewelry.
What Bakelite is.
I love that
stuff. There's vintage camera club. Really? There's whatever your interest. You're never going to have the same things, but there in all those Venn diagrams, like there are the big ones, and one of the biggest and most loyal fandoms out there is fans of Tolkien and Lord of the Rings. So I'm so happy that you guys are doing this. I can't wait to see your stuff.
We're going to make a conscious effort to keep this kind of news and rumor free. Like the collectibles area, the collectibles thing on Gemr is our official collectors section of the website. If you go to theonering.net, on the main nav, collectors, boom, takes you right here. You won't find all the latest news and rumors and stuff about Harvey Weinstein getting sued because Ashley Judd was supposed to be Arwen. That's for a different part of the community. That's a different part of the website. Like this is for toys, collectibles, and I tell you, everyone collects pop vinyls. Even if you don't yet, you will.
There needs
That's right. I have a bunch of them. I don't think I've ever bought one. I have been given so many Funko Pops.
I love them.
Yeah. But I do love they're cute.
Gemr, under the Tolkien community, we need to have the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings collectibles because those are the real vintage OG.
Oh, right.
Those buttons, stickers, coloring books, those board games, the very limited merchandise they had out when United Artists released that film, that stuff is gold. I love that stuff.
And I haven't gotten around to post it today. I'll post it tomorrow, but on the Tolkien collectibles community on Gemr, we'll post a link that just got in stock today.
What?
Was Barnes & Noble's reprint of the Invisible Gollum pop vinyl that sold out within hours last time. It's back in stock. They got a bunch more shipment. So we'll post a link to that. You'll want to get it because it's already going on eBay for hundreds, but I just want it because I need the Invisible Gollum.
Definitely. I want one too. I have to acknowledge a lot of the folks who were participating with us on the live chat, and thank you. We didn't get to have deep dive into the chat, but we did get some great messages from around the world. I want to say, hey there, Brennan Marr. Chris Gore is awesome. I saw him on Collider a few times, and it's always a pleasure to see him.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brennan. That's fantastic. Awesome, and from the opposite side of the world, I am Ganesh from India. Hello, welcome to the show. India. I like your nickname. I hope that the deity Ganesh is quite pleased with your wink using his name. I have watched Lord of the Rings, each part, more than 10 times. If Amazon is going to make a series with Peter Jackson, I, as one of the big fans, will surely see what they cover that the movie didn't. But having the characters as they were with additions and surprises, also how Sauron looked before his endured. I think that last word should be how Sauron looked before his
armor.
Before his big change when he was like destroyed personally when Numenor was sunk under the waves and then he could no longer assume a fair form
And
any
that's
longer.
Sauron,
I can't wait to see that
Sauron
stuff.
is a perfect circle to bullet point the end of the show because the mouth of Sauron has another Star Wars connection.
That's true.
The mouth of Sauron is played by Bruce Spence.
Bruce, that's
who
right.
was in Mad Max.
Yeah, the original.
So the
the
mouth
Road
of
Warrior.
Sauron was actually in Star Wars Episode 3.
He was, yes, it was, yes. He
Now,
wasn't.
can anyone tell me the name of the character? JC, can you tell me the name of Bruce Spence's character that Obi-Wan greets when he goes to Utapau?
Oh my gosh.
He has like 2 lines, 1 line.
But
he's
he
got the
is
weird
known
alien
for the
look. but
teeth.
I love Bruce
Like,
Spence.
The mouth of Sauron has these awesome teeth, and then Bruce Spence's character in Star Wars has similar.
No, he's the guy with the big red
big thing,
behind
big red
him.
thing and teeth.
I just looked
Someone
that
knows.
up when I was doing the trivia questions for May the 4th,
Yeah.
and
He was in
I
Revenge
don't
of the
have it.
Sith.
He was in
Yeah,
Revenge
so,
of the Sith.
yeah.
So Christopher Lee, Bruce Spence, Richard Armitage, Anthony Daniels.
Yes.
There's so many connections.
So many connections, yeah.
Now I need to look up Bruce Spence on IMDb and see what character he played.
Hey, Cliff, before we end the show, I want JC to ask the one trivia question that had everyone stumped on May the 4th about John Williams' son.
Oh. The trivia question, I think as I phrased it, was John Williams' son wrote the music Laptinek in Return of the Jedi. What popular rock band is he a member of?
He wrote the song that the Ewoks are singing.
Laptinek, Jabba's Palace.
Oh, at Jabba's Palace.
Lapti
oh.
Neck, yes.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
The original,
That
not
was
the new
yeah,
one.
Not the special edition, Lapti Neck. Now it's playing in my head. I'll never get it out of my head. Lapti Neck. Thanks. That's great. I don't know, what band is he in? We don't know it.
What major band?
What,
You-
a big
Is it
band.
a major band? Can you give us some clues, some hints? What era? What?
Oh man, like
John Williams' son.
John Williams' son. I didn't
it's
know
hard
he was in
to.
a pop band.
Joseph Williams is in the band.
Whose hit song is
who's-
named after a continent.
Who's yeah? That's a
Whose
good.
hit song is named after a continent?
What?
Oh,
what,
Lord.
What is it?
John Williams' son, the creator of the Star Wars theme, the Harry Potter theme, how
Created
many
the Harry Potter theme? I thought
No, you
Indiana
mean John Williams. He's
Jones
talking about
theme.
John
Okay,
Williams.
okay.
Yeah, we know what. We don't need to go through John Williams'
his-
CV. We know the music he's done, but
His-
What band is his son in?
China? Is China the song? No, that's not.
Close.
Okay.
Bless
close?
the Rains.
the name of the band.
You would bless the Rains with this band, or hold the line.
Oh man, these are
Toto.
Toto.
Toto. Wait, Toto that did the music for Dune?
Joseph
The original
Williams.
David Lynch Dune?
Joseph Williams
Joseph Williams
is in the band Toto.
I didn't know Joseph Williams was in the
Wow.
band Toto. We were just listening to Africa last night.
Yeah.
The version that was done by the Angel City Choir here in Los Angeles. This huge, amazing choir. But what? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Everybody looked at me like I was an idiot. But
It had
apparently,
everyone stumped.
I even
You know.
know that came from Toto 4. That was their 4th eponymous album.
Oh, now you
He
know
was
the whole
not-
history
so
of
I-
Toto.
Joseph
I do.
Williams-
Actually, that was one of the first vinyls I ever bought as a teenager.
So-
was Toto 4.
he was
true.
not an original member, but he has been a longtime member of the group.
Was he in it when they made the music for Dune, David Lynch's Dune, in
I don't know.
1984?
That would be
love
a
that, yeah.
Wikipedia.
Another level.
That's
My favorite guilty
which,
pleasure.
Which, oddly enough, to me,
love
I've
that.
always thought Dune, if you've read the books, it's Game of Thrones in outer space.
Yes, it is.
That's what Dune is. If
Precisely.
you read Dune, there's religion's a big part of it. It's different houses fighting. They're all fighting. It's
Yep.
commerce and politics, and it is. To me, if you look at Game of Thrones, it's Dune.
And-
It's a
and
lot
the
of
Holy
a lot of
War.
Dune. The dragons are kind of the sandworms. You
And
could go.
I believe Denis Villeneuve is working on a new Doom.
He's working on Dune, which he says is going to be Star Wars for adults.
So it's
no
all,
idea what that means.
It's all circular, like a ring. The show
Right.
starts where it ends.
I just
Fantastic.
connected.
Yeah.
I'm such a big Frank Herbert fan, and I love Dune. I love David Lynch's Dune as much as it's still
Yes.
derided, but it's always worth revisiting because it's visually one of the most,
Well, visually, it's
it's
fantastic.
one of the most fantastic
you
things
can't-
ever.
Final
So
thought.
good.
Final thought.
It's
Cliff,
crazy.
Chris, would David Lynch do an episode of Lord of the Rings?
I would not have David Lynch come anywhere near this material. No.
I think
no.
I think it would be
No.
great if it involved wizards getting high, smoking their pipes. I think
What if-
that is the episode that you want to book David Lynch to direct. It's got to be something involving
Hallucinogenic.
wizards and pipes and smoke, and something magical happens.
What if he did it?
Hallucinations.
What if the whole episode was through Sauron's eyes, though? The way that Sauron saw the
No,
world.
David Lynch
And
would
that-
put it through the Palantir's eyes. Like the whole episode,
Yeah,
you'd be
through the
looking
Palantir.
from the Palantir's perspective
That- he'd
as
be
people
so
go to
good.
touch.
You use his oddness to reveal an aspect of a character that you wouldn't, or like Gollum, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Like
It
this
would- but
mad,
the
reason-
schizophrenic.
I've been saying that.
Look,
we should have some unreliable narrators, whatever they are.
No,
Yeah,
but
we should
yeah.
have some unreliable narrators come and
I
tell
bring-
us a new
I bring up
perspective
David Lynch
of their
because
story.
How are you going to tell the story of Grima Wormtongue and the corruption of Rohan? There has to be a little bit of like mysticism and magic,
Exactly, exactly. Yes, I
Rohan,
agree.
Theoden getting taken down by Grima Wormtongue and turning into that old weird thing and casting out the Rohirrim. Like, there's magic and mayhem and flirting with the Eowyn that wants nothing to do with him. Like,
That's not in the
it's
book.
very Lynchian. Like,
God,
the story
no.
of Grima Wormtongue could be very David Lynch.
That's because, Brad Dourif has worked with Mr. Lynch many,
That's
many
true.
times before.
Well, there you go. What do you know?
That's a combination I always
I love
trust.
Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
I love Brad. Brad
love
Dourif
that.
should be on the show.
Yes.
He should be on the
I
show.
would
We should
love
get
to.
him on the show.
Brad, come on, you're invited.
We're Facebook friends. I could send him a message. We'll have to talk.
Dude,
after.
yeah, I'd love to
I'm
have
serious.
Mr.
I saw
Dourif.
Brad. I friended him, and I don't know.
Is
we
it
should get
any
him on the show.
relation to Steven Dorff of Blade?
No, different name.
Vampire?
Dourif.
Oh,
Different
Dourif.
spelling.
Oh my God.
But yeah. Brad Dourif, brilliant actor.
I would like to
Brilliant
talk to
Should be on
Brad.
the show.
If I had Brad on the show, I would talk to him about Milos Forman. I would barely talk about Lord of the Rings at all. I would talk to Brad Dourif about a bunch of other things
About
he's done
everything else.
in his career, to be
Well-
honest. I would barely even scratch talking a Tolkien question with him. But he's brilliant. I do love him. I love him.
Chris
Okay,
Gore, it's been wonderful that you've been
Thank
able
you.
to
It has
join
been
us here
a super
at
awesome
the
show.
Cantina.
yeah.
Thank you.
Scum and Villainy
Thanks, Justin.
Cantina is here in Hollywood, and we're here every week, and we hope you join us and sit at the bar, ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question here.
No. We have an open arms policy, free hugs. I'm the guy holding the sign at the bar that says free hugs. Come on into the bar and have a drink and some queso and some delicious outer space food.
So
And-
they know where to find us every week. Where can they find you?
You can find me at I'm that Chris Gore on everything, or you can look at filmthreat.com is my website, and
Yes.
if you go to Gemr.com, just look up that Chris Gore and follow me there. I will follow you back, and you can check out my collection. I was at Monster Palooza recently, and I got a signed autograph from the guy who played the original Ultraman. 1966 show, and we have, I didn't even know this, we have an Ultraman club on Gemr, so I was so excited to be able to add that
No
to
way,
the
really?
club. Yeah, so follow me
That's funny.
on Gemr, just look me up, that Chris Gore.
And if you
Thank
join
guys.
Gemr, join our Tolkien community, because every week on this show, we'll have a little segment that features the coolest collectibles that show up,
Oh,
just
that's
like we
great.
did today.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
show some more
So
good
we
stuff.
want to show what you guys have, because there's so many collectible. Look, I'm impressed with Gandalf's staff, and you're like, that is a first edition book. Like,
You spotted it in the corner. That was hilarious. That was great.
surprise
That's
us.
great.
Surprise us with your collection.
You guys, thank you, Justin, for helping us put the show together. Thank you to JC and the hardworking staff of Scum and Villainy Cantina for letting us have a whole new forum. And this is going to be an open forum. You guys be with us live on the phone, on the hotline, on the live chat, and even better, in the coming weeks, join us here in the actual
Here in
space.
person.
If you're in Southern California area, it's going to be a grand show. And on May 29th, Mr. Kevin Smith will be back here.
Yes, May
doing a show.
29th.
All right.
And if you come to our show,
Good times.
you can get
You get the better seats.
you can get good seats for
Yeah.
Kevin
Yeah.
Smith.
It is a chance for you to bypass the whole problem of reserving seats for Kevin's show.
Why do you have to use the word bypass?
Maybe I
when
should have
talking
said that.
about Kevin
Well, you
Smith?
buy tickets to Kevin's show.
You buy
You
tickets
show
to
up
Kevin's
at
show.
for Lord of the Rings at 5, and you get your pick.
Oh,
Of the seats.
exactly.
So you guys are the opener.
So yeah,
For
Yes.
Kevin.
We're-
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're the
so
opener for Kevin.
If you're going to stay for Kevin's show, you're definitely going to buy tickets for Kevin's show.
Would Kevin be a fun director of some Hobbiton scenes?
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
I think, yes.
Yep.
I think there would also be pipes in that episode.
Lots of
I'm
pipe weed.
almost certain that there would be pipes in that particular
Yes.
episode if Kevin directed it.
Oh my gosh. Well, California state law would let that happen, so we're good with that.
Could he remake Clerks as Tukes?
Oh God, no.
That's good. That's actually, oh my God, that's actually a great idea. Oh my God, you have to
funny.
somehow have that come up at the end of the show.
Billy Boyd, Dominic
Take it over.
Monaghan, Kevin
Oh my
Smith.
God, that'd be hilarious.
Oh man,
That would be
We
hilarious.
should try to get Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan here on the 29th when Kevin's here and make this deal happen.
Oh my, yes.
Oh my gosh, that would be
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
you
I
guys,
like it.
we're here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific at the Scum and Villainy Cantina, and we're live in your laptop and phone and Twitch and Twitter and Periscope and Facebook and YouTube.
Indeed we are.
And Cliff's on Twitter at QuickBeam2000.
QuickBeam 2000, he's on Twitter, Justin's Big Idea, and we're all here at the One Ring Net. All of us. Trapped in amber forever.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Take care.
everybody.